take it away.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here at 2:25 on a Friday. So appreciate it. I feel like I should be handing out candy bars or something fun, the Starbucks cards. So I'm going to talk a little bit about integrating AI penetration testing process. So we have a hacking class at Oklahoma State along with the others. And so I'm just going to talk about generalities a little bit, and then a little bit about what we're trying to do with our program moving forward. So I always like to start things out with my cute rescue dog, because cute four-legged animals can be really complicated. So if you have some audience participation, what concerns you most about using AI for security testing?
Yeah, using public models.
Yeah.
Would potentially disclose things that you're finding back to a third party.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
The fact that it might not understand like a more unique way to go about it, since it's always like learning from itself, it doesn't actually come up with a new way to test it. So there's obvious like bigger holes that'll come in, that like bigger, like, I can't think of the word, but like bigger areas that they're not actually looking at to find out where your vulnerabilities are, because it's only testing what it knows and it won't figure out the new area.
That's very true. Yeah.
The human intelligence part is a major factor in AI to decide if it's an important task to do or not, and if it's really vulnerable or not. Some things might look vulnerable, which are definitely not vulnerable, and some things will not look vulnerable, which are definitely vulnerable. And your data can actually be used for training for next release, which you definitely won't want to.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I would say the false sense of security may give you, because all the people that I know that are the best at their jobs, especially something like this, are the people that will dig through the logs, will look at all the code, will hyperfixate on very small things and find very big vulnerabilities in it. And my concern for using AI for security testing would be, you're basically saying that's busy work and it's not worth going through the nuance and really, subjecting it to rigorous review. And anything that you're handing over to something like this to say, well, this is important, but it's not important enough for me to read, you're basically just hoping that it'll be right. So that would be my concern for it.
Yeah, so that really goes back to what I think it was Tony this morning said about this mundane tasks, right? AI. Also, in your opinion, what's the biggest barrier to more pen testing in your environment? So how can we do more pen testing in your environment? Right.
The people that would be pen testing, which is my own teams, would complain about it, like, or try to sue me, or you have to have all these paperwork in place to do it right, and that slows everything down, and it becomes not worth it.
All right, I wasn't expecting that. That's good. Go ahead. Back.
The business operations that's wrapped around it, meaning with the organization you're doing the pen test against, quelling any concerns that they may have of you causing a production impact, different things like that. Sure. That whole lead up of work to being able to actually do the work takes so much time that really slows the iterative ability to be able to work through an environment.
Great. Yeah.
Getting people to fix the stuff that's found before the next one, there's no point doing another one if you haven't fixed the stuff.
That's a great point, fixing what's wrong. Yeah, go ahead.
If you're a small business or non-profit agency, and if you don't have a pen testing team for that, it would be a cost factor to hire someone from external and do it regularly.
Right, cost for external consultants.
Even if you have a team, the time it takes for them to do one, they have time to do everything you want. So getting that out time.
Yeah, time constraints. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to kind of get a couple of questions there going. So I'm not going to, basically read these slides for you. There's a lot of challenges when it comes to penetration testing. And so one of the things that we look at with our students is equipping them to, basically do as much as they can, with the 2-year degree. So we do a lot of hands-on exercise, hands-on labs and assessments. And so we're trying to, make them as productive as possible when they step into the workforce. And part of that is, this whole AI thing is that, I talked to several people today, it's not going away. Can't really hide from it anymore. And so, one of the things at Columbus State is there's been a little bit of pushback. How should we let our students use AI at Columbus State? And so, from, and that'll vary from department to department, so I won't get into all that, but from a cybersecurity perspective, right, we need to, this is something that can help us as testers. So we need to embrace this, we need to put some guardrails around it and help students understand how they can use it basically to better, to be more efficient. Right? So the theme through all of this is interesting because it's a theme in a lot of the classes I teach. And it's automation, it's scripting, right? It's these things that we can do in a repeatable, formal fashion. And so there was some folks earlier were talking about process and how, something happens a lottery, if somebody, I use a lot of lottery example, but what happens if somebody has done their job for 10 years? What does that look like? So from an AI perspective, some of this is very much saying what some of the other folks had said earlier, but machine learning has been around. All of these things have really been around for a while, but now we just have this kind of AI explosion with ChatGPT and perplexity. You name the tools, and we said there were over like 4,000 tools out there, so we said it's one. And so, how do we use these things for our benefit? So some of the benefits would be, hey, we're finding out things earlier. The continuous self-learning, I think, is certainly a good thing. I don't know that we're settling here yet based on the learning models that we're using, but just being able to correlate findings across systems. So this again is like, it's a SIM system, right? Those out there are using the SIM system. It's about correlating, hey, I see some weird traffic here. I've got maybe a brute force attack happening for one of my email accounts. So, bringing those things together is the essence of monitoring versus reading logs. So we need to get all the data together, go through it as efficiently as we can. So just some basic workflow changes, and you'll see through all of this is really like continuous, autonomous, automated. So all of these things are, again, things that people, an experienced pen tester would do, but now we're taking that skill set, if you will, and putting it in AI so that we can basically get the same results, which I know is, again, that's a little further out, but ideally we would get the same results from using AI as we would from a pen tester. So I've actually been thinking about this for years, like would it be neat if I could, the process that I go through to do a pen test, would it be neat if I could just kind of make some kind of Jarvis-like entity from about Iron Man, some kind of Jarvis-like entity that could learn based on what I'm doing and then reproduce that as time goes on to anybody who's. So again, like I said, these are all, I don't think there's anything necessarily earth-shaking here. It's pretty standard stuff. But how we actually start doing it in practice is important. Just by show of hands, how many are using AI right now to their pen testing? Okay, so a few people, awesome. And again, these are you know, is a very, very small subset of what tools are out there. So tool wise, there's a ton of tools out there. So here's just a few of them that you can use that are specific to what's happening right now. Constantly changing it. So things like service banners. So if you're doing a pen test, you're again kind of backing up for a minute. So we're looking for vulnerabilities. So we're doing a scan of the network, all the endpoints. What do those look like? You know, how things like how fast are we scanning? Are we going to be detected from a, you know, we're scanning too fast, it makes too much noise point of view. So there are, you know, the whole idea behind pen testing is just to get as far as you can, or as long as you can without being detected. So we want to make sure that we're doing things that are going to allow us to, you know, basically get, you know, get root or whatever term you want to use, and plant flags, etc., without being identified whatsoever. So the things like, you know, what kind of, you know, what are the switches that I'm going to use to OS detection, stuff like that, which again is fairly basic when it comes to pen testing. But can I automate that? Can I say, you know, I think I know something about, maybe this environment has a lot of Linux systems, so maybe I want to focus on SSH, for example, to see, you know, what systems are available or through it, et cetera. So these are, again, things that can be automated. It's kind of like a stored procedure. So we build it once and reuse it. And I think that is the beauty of it. Of course, the downside is, did we build it the right way to reuse it? We need to keep learning after it's built to go ahead and take this. It being whatever the operation. The other thing, which a couple people had talked about today, were just as far as attacks go, you know, incident response, doing the tabletop exercises, all of those things that you never really realize how important those are until you don't have, or until an incident occurs, don't have all of those things that are very well. So those are also things that, you know, anything that is relatively complex to potentially very complex, yeah, help with, but again, it's still very early as far as that goes. The other thing is just understanding what's on the network. And so I've been doing this, I've been in the industry for about 32 years. I think it's actually introduced me. So I'm an associate professor at the state, only been teaching about 8 years, but like 32 years in the industry. And what I've seen is just, you know, the same issues continually for, you know, the past 30 years are, we don't know what's on our network. How are we able to protect it, you know, properly? How are we supposed to assess the risk properly when we don't really understand exactly what's on it? So that is just something that has come up time and time again. I've done a couple of presentations on IoT, and IoT is the same, right? It's the same problems that we had with traditional IT for decades. So hopefully, help get this a little better place. So here's a couple examples. I do have more data on this if you're interested, but just kind of 3 examples. One in healthcare, one in manufacturing. So this again is really where like a security analyst would, right? So we're taking what would be an entry level position and we're basically replacing it with AI, which is challenging, right? Because like, you know, my graduates, students know, you know, what job am I going to get? Well, you know, probably like a SOC analyst or, you know, something like that, where you're analyzing, looking at SIM, you're basically doing a lot of things that have been in the slides. So what does that look like? If I have an AI or a software solution yeah, ask a little bit better. Somebody can distract you with the surgeons. So that's sort of, I don't have the answer to say, it's a challenge. We're definitely trying to figure out what is the best way to make our students valuable. So just real quick, a little commercial about us. We are the CAE-CE certified institution somewhere in Ohio State. And we have, basically we just have one track where students are going through web application security, network security, forensics, and ethical hacking, just to name a few. So I did want to put up one. Yeah. So this is current. Working on quite a few other things for this spring, but this is just there's a couple research prompts that have been added for this fall, for this class in ethical hacking. And so this is just a way of, I think the one after that, which I don't have an example of, is looking at some CVEs and, something recent for Microsoft and doing some research on that, just to get students more comfortable with looking for vulnerabilities, what potential exploits are with those vulnerabilities or in those vulnerabilities supplied. So this is just, kind of starting with the ethics piece, because right? AI, some of my colleagues feel like they don't want students to use AI because they're going to cheat, and that's, certainly, I think students that want to do that are going to do that regardless. Students that don't are not. And so we just, start with some ethics, since ethical hacking, right? We want to make sure that we're training folks the right way. And then, so this is just an example of something that just started this semester, and we've been building on and with other prompts. So we're going to be having them write prompts for scanning and doing some exploits and that type of stuff. So again, probably nothing you haven't heard of or is more earth-shaking for you. I just wanted to just kind of say, hey, we're going in that direction from an academic perspective. It's certainly, in my humble opinion, we don't move as fast as we need to, especially in cybersecurity in academia, right? And that's just kind of the nature of this. So I just wanted to kind of show we're working toward it, we're getting there. I would love to hear if those folks in the industry, if there's certain things, hey, I would love if if we hired one of your graduates, I would love if they do X or Y. Love to hear that, because we're always updating our curriculum to make our students as possible. This is me. I promise this is not pushing. This is a look. It's LinkedIn, so it's nothing crazy. But if you want to connect or add questions, please. Questions? Yeah, go ahead.
So I did a undergrad in computer science engineering, and probably one of the worst classes I took was the ethics class. It was, I just left the class not knowing what the heck was going on ethically. And so, and then I know that we have students come in from other countries where software piracy is just what you do. And
Sure.
might be arguably ethical. I'm just curious, what is the foundation for your ethics and ethical hacking?
Foundation for the ethics and ethical hacking. So we have, CAE, Center of Academic Excellence, they have basically like an ethics statement, and that's where we start. That's the umbrella basis of the ethics. So I don't know it off the top of my head. I apologize. But there's actually a book that just came out last year that a lot of the ethics are pulled from. gentleman teaches for St. Anne's. But anyway, so that's where the ethics come from CA. That has been figured out, well vetted, and more than. Anybody have? Yeah, go ahead.
So when you ask that question, what industry people do you wish we taught more?
Yeah.
What kind of answers have you heard?
So great question. So one of the things that we heard was threat models. They would like people to be more, have some exposure to threat models, creating threat models, understanding what that looks like. So we do have that in our classes. I would say that's probably the biggest one that came up recently. We do have these, they're called built sessions that we have every so often. What we do is we send out a questionnaire to, probably half a dozen people, or sorry, not a dozen. And then we have them score it from that, and they basically tell us, hey, we want more, maybe container security versus virtualization security. Or, we want more people who know how to code in Python or PowerShell versus Java. So we try to keep those, we definitely do it annually. We try and keep that information going to our curriculum. Yeah.
Kind of a blended statement question, but something I'd be interested in, the next generation that's coming into this space. Using the AI to help with report generation, so after the fact.
Mhm.
So one of the things that I've ran into in doing the red team side of the house is being able to produce concise reporting that makes sense to the business that you're then delivering that to, and also adding in context. An example I ran into is I did a web app assessment against an application that was based upon an open source framework, identified a vulnerability within that, and I was able to take what I found from a vulnerability perspective, plug it into Gemini, then went out and found a CVE from 3 years ago that was basically the same vulnerability, just in another place of the application. So then when I turned over the report at the end of that assessment, not only was able to say, hey, I found this confirmed vulnerability, but this also looks to be a regression issue, or maybe that it got rebat introduced. Whereas normally I would not have had the time to manually go out into Google, search for that, find it, and add that context. So in the end, the value of the reporting I'm able to produce by augmenting it with AI is much higher than if I would have just turned in that report from just what I'm able to do as an individual.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, thanks for sharing it. That's great. It does save us a lot of time, cuts down some of the red tape, I guess. So I think it, to your point, you're able to provide a better quality than the verbal. That's what it's. Okay. All right. She's giving me a look. I'm sorry.